I'm down at the original flower bed this morning because it's high time I got a bit of a tidy up. So what I'm going to do is a bit of weeding, maybe tidy up any of the plants which need a bit of pruning. Then I'm going to put down some fertilizer, and then hopefully that'll be that for a few weeks at least. The weeds do come on pretty quickly here, and maybe not today, but sometime soon I'll then do the same with the doughnut bed. This one's probably in worse shape. I do try to keep on top of it, but things do get a bit out of control this time of year. It slows down again once we're into the sort of height of summer. But hopefully, by the time my morning's done, this will be looking lovely. Here's how we're looking. This task is done. So, just to go over what I have done. Number one, I weeded it, and then I went round and put a whole load of manure all around the plants and on the bed. And then I cracked open a compost bin and also put a whole compost bin's worth of compost onto the garden bed. I have been through and taken off and added some plant cages as and where they were needed. I put down some slow release fertilizer, I put down some garden lime, and I've given it all a nice water. So this is where we're at now, hopefully, and this will stand them in good stead in terms of helping the soil retain water and helping the plants get a bit more of the goodness in the soil rather than sharing it with all those weeds. Now all I need to do is try and keep on top of it for the next month or two until we're in the height of summer, in which case, as I mentioned earlier, that'll become less of an issue because it'll be too hot for anything really to grow. I'm off now for the next part of my morning, which is giving the citrus a fertilise, and then I'm going to do a bit of pruning. On to my final task of the morning, using my French Loppers, which was one of my Christmas presents from Will this year, or last Christmas. I'm going to try and prune the top of this back now that I don't have to bother going up on a ladder. Mostly that's because it's slightly in the way of the internet satellite dish, so I thought I might see if I can get it a bit more out of the way of that. I'm going to prune the camellia. Up until now I've sort of only been able to manage so high, but I'm hoping I can knock the height of that back. And then quite probably lastly with those loppers, I'm going to try and take a little bit of height off of this lemon tree. The bay pyramid definitely needs attention, but in some respects that is easier on a ladder and actually in fact on the roof. And the rhododendron there just needs a limb pruned off that's dead, and probably similar here with the lemon actually. The lemon's not looking great. Mostly that's because I believe there's some sort of caterpillar again on here which is eating the leaves. So it's all looking a bit threadbare on this poor tree. But what can you do? But I hope if I take this dead limb off, that'll at least maybe help it. And we're at that time of year again, as you may have seen from last week, where the pregnant females with their growing joeys, the little baby wallabies, are plaguing the garden. They munch everything in their path, which is why I have so diligently got so many plants in cages. And they're no fan of Vita, even though she's tiny. But she does like coming into the garden, especially on a sunny day like today. As long as she keeps the distance, we should all be able to live in harmony. I'm starting to accumulate the last of the leaves that I'm bringing down from up the hill for the time being, as I'm processing wood, by the side of the bonfire. This is the bonfire here, if you can make it out, because this is also the time of year that I'm going to be shoveling this up into my wheelbarrow and then spreading it on the lawns. For the first few years, the amount of debris I accumulated here was so vast, I was able to fertilise the entirety of the lawns around the property. Now, because I'm better on top of it, I only really generate enough to focus on the lawns immediately around the house. The reason I do that is that this is a nice resource. I've generated it essentially for free, and I can use it to fertilise the lawns to try and help keep them nice and lush, which, as you all know by now, is one of my tactics of trying to help protect my property against bushfire. A nice fertilised lawn that will go browner slower, dry out slower, and hopefully therefore won't be so prone to going on fire if an ember lands on it. So I'm going to rake this up now, and then when I've done that, I'll put the leaves onto the bonfire, and it's at that point that I'll be going around and raking up the debris around the house and burning that. That's mostly leaves and twigs and small branches. And the reason I don't spread that around the house is because that inevitably also incorporates rocks, and I don't want those getting in the way of the mower, creating a spark and starting a fire, ironically. I'll crack on with that and I'll catch up with you later. Another day, another flower bed. I'm working on the Doughnut Bed this morning. It's one of those days, although it sort of superficially looks sunny, the wind is ripping all the joy out of that sun and it's absolutely bitter. But I'm determined to do this before Will and I go away. We've got a long weekend ahead of us, and although I haven't got the manure to put down for this flower bed, I'm hoping we'll pick it up on our way back from our long weekend. So at least then I'll have bought myself some time and I won't need to weed it before I do that. I highly doubt all these weeds will grow up again in the 4 days that we'll be away. It'll be good to get this done. Several podcasts later, I'm very pleased with that. Now I'm going to go and start packing for my weekend away. Whilst Vita's enjoying herself on the sofa, since we are going away, I thought I'd show you our going away Vita setup. So if ever we go away for any sort of length of time, Vita goes into a cattery, but she hates car travel. She absolutely hates it. And the nearest cattery to us is probably 2.5 hours drive away. So if we're going away for short periods of time, this is how we set things up for Vita. So we give her an extra and a larger bowl of water. This feeder here, this hopper, is full of favourite biscuits, and it's set to the normal biscuit feeding schedule for Vita, which is 3 times a day. There's a little clock and timer there, giving us 6 different variations. So in theory, she could get 1 portion every 6 days, or 6 portions every 1 day, but she gets 3 portions a day. And you can have all sorts of different types of portion sizes. She gets the smallest amount, which is still actually overly generous compared to what we would choose to give her. But what can you do? And this is the brand, and I got that off Amazon. It's pretty good. It's either battery or mains powered. Because of our situation here, we opt for battery. And then we have 2 of these, and these come from eBay. If I spin this one around, it has a little clock on the front, and you can set it so that each of the 6 trays, much like the biscuit feeder inside, can feed 6 meals a day or 1 meal every for 6 days. We have this set up so she gets breakfast and she gets her tea. So she's getting her biscuit feeds and then her wet food feeds. And as I say, there's 6 compartments in there. So the longest that we would ever really be able to leave Vita here on her own for is 6 days. In reality, we don't do that. I think the longest we would tend to leave her for would be 4 or 5 days. But she's pretty comfortable. In the bathroom, there's her litter tray. We leave her with extra blankets and extra fun things to play with. We try to be mindful about how we're leaving the curtains. So at this time of year, if it's sunny, quite a lot of sun does come through this window in the morning and this window in the afternoon. And she does like to lie down there sunbathing. So we might, for example, shut these curtains up to try and keep a bit of warmth in, and say shut the curtains up in the bedroom, but we leave the curtains open of the windows that let the light in to keep the house warm, but also provide Vita with the opportunity to sunbathe, which she enjoys. If it's the dead of winter, we probably keep them shut to try and keep the warmth in, and we might set up a little radiator, a little electric radiator upstairs so it doesn't get too cold. So we do try to take care of her in the sense that we think that her being here and having access to the things she's familiar with and getting fed at all of her normal meal times is better for her than the trauma of shoving her in a car and driving her essentially for a 5-hour journey, which she absolutely hates. So we're away, Vita's staying, but she can look forward to a nice set of meals whilst we're away.